No, tripping horses in front is not normal. You know that. And if anyone is telling you that it's normal, trust your gut, okay? Keep listening to your horses. Today I was working on a beautiful gelding that since the age of 3, he's now 10 years old, the owner has been struggling with a combination of things, like he showed head shaking as a 3-year-old, which was then treated and is now managed today. He has always struggled with the left canter. He showed signs of ataxia, so basically lack of awareness, and the rider noticed that he struggled with this on the right hind. And always since, and this is the importance of questioning and why I do so much questioning, to understand the full history, because when I come and treat a horse, I'm seeing a snapshot of the history, and yes, I can straight away tell when things aren't right, and I can usually, with the experience and the pattern recognition in a horse's, like how they hold themselves in the stable, and when I watch them move, understand what's going on. But it's so important to know why that is there, and that's due to observation, history noting, and asking questions. So when she said, oh, he was so well broken in, like really well behaved, very like kind, very good natured horse. And she said, you know, when the minute I got on, he always used to like duck behind the vertical a bit. And she continued to tell me, and I listened, and then I said, you know, with young horses, and I've started so many young horses across different disciplines and breeds and ages, if they've never been tied in, they very rarely, from the minute you take a contact, go like this, unless they've learned that. And so to me, that is often a sign of horses that have been strapped in with gadgets at a very early age, and then have potentially now got injuries to the soft tissue, because the neck, the spine, everything was x-rayed and it was clean, but the horse still likes to duck behind the vertical. And she's noticed that when she does pop side reins on, he actually prefers the side rein. She said he goes into like this frame, which would be dressage correct, and he seems happy. But the minute you take away the stability, he loses himself and he starts to head tilt severely. So I said, wow, okay, well, this is again horses always talking. Now, what I noticed was, from the minute I moved his forelock away from his pole, his muscle were on the left side of his face were bigger than the right. I then did some work, just again, in the beginning, it's not about treating. I don't want to fix things, I want to understand. When we start to look at horses as structures, that every symptom that we perceive as an issue or that we perceive as a problem is just merely the intelligence of the body saying to us, okay, I've had to change the way I'm now moving and trotting and holding my head, because there's maybe a bit of impingement, or I don't like, it's not comfortable moving in this gait anymore. So this is the amazing thing about the body. And when we start to shift our mindset to, instead of fixing, but curious, and what is the body saying to me? What is this magnificent system structure of the horse saying to me? Bonus tip, it's the same for you. If you suddenly start to develop lower back pain or knee pain and you're frustrated with it, start to look at how you're walking. Start to look at how you get out of bed. Just start to notice, this is maybe why I have the knee pain. What's your diet like? What are you eating? How many hours a night are you sleeping? Like, what's the mattress like? Yeah, you start to question everything, but you start to piece together and get the dots all in a line to understand why that pain is there. It's exactly the same with horses. So we have this asymmetry in the face and the musculature. His lower jaw so blocked to the left-hand side, so his TMJ was locked. When I palpated, so put my hands on his top of his head, the atlas axis, and then I moved my hands down his neck, looking at the neck cervicals, it was really, really apparent, not only by what I was feeling with my hands, but looking at the horse's behavior. And you know me now, having you know, if you guys follow me or listen to a lot of these kind of case studies that I share with you, the horses are never lying. They're always telling us the truth. And if we just focus on them every time we intentionally do something, you'll know straight away what the answer is. And the minute I put my hands on his neck, the skeletal misalignments were very apparent, but also when I moved my hands onto his musculature, I was like, this isn't normal. You know how horses can develop a fatty crest, right? So if they're a little bit overweight, the fat deposits lay on the top of the neck. You see this in like fat ponies or lamanitic horses where the body deposits the fat. But this horse had a fat deposit that stopped halfway up his neck. Why? Was my first question. That is maybe not abnormal. The body has done that for a reason. So the more I started to piece together what the horse's body was saying, what the owner was saying about the history, and the more questioning I did, I realized, you know what, when I watch this horse walk, he has what I call like quite a funky walk. Like, it's not like scientific, but it doesn't look like most horses, but it has the minute the front leg comes forward and the toe lands, before it lands, it like flicks the toe. It's like a funky, flicky toe. Okay, let's go for that. Let's keep it fun. And then I watched him circle left, circle right, and I was like, oh my goodness, this horse doesn't fully extend his front legs. Now, given what I've just said about the neck, given what I've just said about the injury to the left pectoral girdle, now he doesn't extend his front legs. We are looking at a shoulder girdle issue, and boy oh boy, they are not easy. Like, they are not easy to treat because there's so much connective tissue, muscle, spinal, nerve, so many connectors that are all localized in what we call the CT junction, so the cervical-thoracic junction, and we don't yet have all the diagnostic tools in order to treat these, and before we treat them, actually effectively diagnose them, which is probably why we have so many like unexplained front limb lamenesses where you block everything, you flex everything in the distal limb of the foreleg, and the horse still doesn't feel right to ride. And I'm just going to have a shout out to all my riders and say therapists, whoever's listening to this today, and they're thinking, yes, it was fine on the scan, it cleared the scan and on the legs, and you get on board and it still feels crooked. If the horse is crooked, if the horse is feeling quarters in, if the horse is feeling really like a plank of wood to bend, that is lameness. It's just not a limb lameness, it is a body lameness. And that is why we need to open our eyes as practitioners, as an industry, and recognize that if we have an issue in the hock and we treat the hock, it's not going to magically fix the entire body. And is the primary issue even in the hock? Because in most cases it isn't. And let's start working collaboratively. Let's start looking at the horse as a whole. Going back to this shoulder girdle injury in this horse, another thing I want to share with you, a really practical way to see if your horse has got an injury to the shoulder girdle is to stand them up square on a hard ground, and obviously make sure they're safe behind. Get on like a platform that's a little bit higher and just have a look above and see if the top of the scapula is the same right to left, and is the muscle development the same as well. Then I would also really recommend just lifting up the front legs. Like, we all do this every single day, picking out their feet. Lift up the front legs and have a look. With this horse, the left fore felt totally different to pick up to the right fore. And when I then linked that to what I saw in the horse walk and trot, and then what the rider was saying, how difficult the horse is on the left rein, and how the horse trips. Remember, I started this episode with tripping horses are not normal. It's a sign. and it is a symptom that we cannot ignore as horse lovers, equestrians, riders, and therapists. The nerves coming out of the spinal column at the base of the neck innervate the muscles of the forelimb. So I'm talking about the muscles of the scapula, the infraspinatus, the supraspinatus, which are your stabilizing muscles. They also innervate the muscles that connect the scapula, rib cage, and the cervical spine. And that is, if you run your hand in front of the horse's scapula, some horses, you see this in their neck, the base of the neck, in the middle part, there's this like dip. That dip is not normal. It's a clear sign that, well, it could mean numerous things, and just a common one is that they're not able to contract, stabilize through their spine and activate through their abdominal muscles, so they don't have the strength in those muscles, the serratus ventralis, cervical, and thoracics, in a very technical term. But this guy, when I was running my hands on the right scapula at the front, I noticed such a different tonicity in the muscles right to left. So all of this is now making so much sense. What do we do? I said to the rider, do you do any pole work? She said, well, I do these trot poles and raise them so that my horse is like really lifting up the back end, because, you know, he needs to be stronger behind. She's not wrong. However, we have to be careful with pole work because it's not scientifically supported to the degree that it's being utilized nowadays in this world in 2026. So a big thing with what I do with less is more, and also questioning why we're doing it. So we have got research with flat poles on the floor that support stabilizing the horse's spine. So we're going to do that. We're going to replace these big, large cavaletti things and focus on one area, which I said the hind leg isn't going to be able to come through no matter how much range you improve it by, if the front end isn't strong enough to push off the ground and allow the hind end to come through. So, strengthening the shoulder girdle, optimizing the front leg reach is the goal for the next 3 months. You heard me, 3 months. She looked at me, okay. And I love that moment of like, this makes sense, because I'm giving her the practicality of form equals function. I'm giving her the understanding of why we're doing that. I really want to stress this. As a therapist, we need to take more responsibility with just advocating pole work, stretching, without the validation and clinical reasoning to why. And on that note, we have to be discipline specific as well. So recommending the same exercises for a thoroughbred racing horse in training compared to a dressage horse, compared to a show jumper, shows me that we are not looking at the discipline demands, the structure of the horse, and how those two link together. The other thing which we've not spoken about today is the rider, how they're put together, their structure, how the rider shows up to ride, because you all know that if you're not in a good state, if you're not in a present moment, if you're stressed, if you haven't slept enough, if you've got bad diet, that physiological response is going to affect how you show up energy-wise, mental clarity-wise, like to your horse. And the horses, oh, they know, they pick up on this. Any questions you guys have, comment below. I read every single comment, and if you haven't already, don't forget to give me a follow and subscribe.